Well, hello you bearded bastards, and welcome back once again to Kruggsmash, Honeystoker. It's currently the 17th of Hematite in the year 278, 6 years after this fortress's founding, and things are going fairly well, I'd say. A little slow going perhaps, but that's the way it's gotta be, unfortunately. Gotta make sure our dwarves are nice and sane, you know? Speaking of which, it looks like Rith, our former expedition leader, is currently in a depressive state, just sitting in this hallway by himself. This poor guy. We had replaced him as expedition leader last episode, but it doesn't seem to be helping that much. That's alright though, because we're going to be trying our best to turn him around this episode. And I think we could do it. I'm not sure, but we're gonna have a good stab at it. Same goes for Waxy, his boyfriend, who's currently meditating up here in this temple, and Beans over here, who really moves very slowly, which I find strange. Must be due to his miserable state, I suppose. Poor guy. On top of that, I'd really like to get our temples finished, finally. It's been far too long, and I keep saying we're going to do it, and here I am, not doing it. It shouldn't be that hard, we just need a bunch of siltstone blocks, and that is kind of a pain, but we're definitely gonna do that. Definitely. And maybe when those temples are done, we'll go over the Dwarven gods. The 6 that we have represented here in the fortress, as well as the 2 other outcast gods. That should be pretty interesting. Also, take note that the humans are here for trading, and we're going to be doing a little bit of trading with them, but not very much. We had those little trading segments in the past couple episodes, but I don't want to get too tedious, so that might fall into the background a bit, unless we find something particularly interesting to trade for. Most likely I'll still be telling you about the basic things that we trade for, but overall it's not too thrilling. Another thing I'd really like to do this episode is to start that carving area I was talking about both last episode and the one prior to that. I don't think that's something we should be putting off. It's kind of foolish of me, honestly. And so you know what? There we go, how's that? Just gonna make this long winding tunnel leading to a round area, and we're going to continue this circular chamber, both upwards and down. And hopefully we'll end up having a large tower that kind of bursts out of the earth and continues upwards even. That'll be pretty cool. A decent first project. But I'm thinking it's gonna take some time for the dwarves to start working on that. We do have quite a busy fortress right now, especially considering that at any given point, a third of our population is going to be training now. Yep, we got a lot to do here in Kruggsmash. A whole lot. You know, I guess I couldn't blame the dwarves for being so stressed out. Maybe they are just overworked. They haven't really had any time off whatsoever. You know, I'm thinking we should work something out to that effect. Our meeting hall's empty right now. There's no dwarves in here. I mean, every once in a while somebody will come in here to eat. But other than that, yeah, it's just kind of not very busy at all. A real shame. You know, I'm thinking that Atir, our expedition leader, is looking around the fortress seeing these miserable, overworked dwarves, her friends, mind you, and is really trying to work out a way to improve things. And you know, one of the best things I could think to do is to give them some time off. Seems natural, right? And so this fall we're going to declare a fortress-wide festival. And for every fall time in the future. I think that'd be a good idea. And we will call it the Autumn Festival, during which time all the dwarves in the fortress will be forced to relax. Now you can see here I do have a burrow set up, so that dwarves are only allowed to go to their bedrooms, and then down here in the meeting hall as well, where the dwarves will be able to relax in the meeting hall, and will also have access to food over here. How does that sound? I think that's going to work out pretty darn well. And I would imagine the dwarves are getting pretty excited about it. I'd like to think so anyways. The poor guys. And another vile force of darkness has arrived, just as we're preparing for the festival too. What are the chances? Well, let's have a look. Well, it looks like there's only 4 individuals here. I have to imagine this will end up being like that last siege, if that's what you want to call it. Certainly hoping anyways. You can see that in this raid here there are a human and a dwarf as well, both of whom were originally snatched children that were raised with the goblins and turned into slave warriors. Well, I'm gonna unpause it. Let's see what happens. Yep, they just ran away, just like last time. Oh, but you know what? We just spotted another snatcher, right over here at the fortress entrance. It's a human and they're right next to this child. Oh, that's not good. I really hope they don't grab this kid. We might have to send our warriors right out. Let's follow the human and see what happens. Alright, they're coming down into the fortress. I don't know what they're doing right now though. What is this? What are you doing? Pause the game. Okay, not too sure what happened there. This child is still safe, just here on the ramp. I don't know if the kid's running away from them or what's happening exactly. But down here in the tunnel, we do have a couple of dwarves on their way who are just disposing some corpses. And one of the dwarves is Maffal, our chief medical dwarf and this child's mother. Now, for whatever reason, this human here is completely unarmed except for 2 bags, used for snatching children, so I'm actually going to send the dwarves straight out to try to kill them. And you know what? Just for the heck of it, I'm going to send out all of the squads too. And we'll follow the human once more. Following, and looks like they're wounded. Taking some hits and they're dead. Easy enough, right? Oh yeah, the human didn't stand a single chance. Luckily, both those dwarves were armed. I didn't think they would be, because they weren't currently training. But the mechanic had a copper battle axe, and the kid's mother had a silver warhammer, and was actually the one to deal the killing blow, smashing that human's skull. Wow, that is brutal. Nobody messes with a dwarven mother. Not in our fortress anyways. Ha! Fantastic. And it looks like little Lionel up here is completely safe too. Good to see. Nobody mind this gore, we're gonna get that cleaned up, ASAP. Ugh. And as for this carcass and all this human's gear, we'll just get it thrown in the river. That's kind of been our method of disposal this whole time. Oh, but I don't want to forget, it is currently time for the Autumn Festival. And after that minor heart attack, I think we all could use it. Let's go, dwarves! The time for celebration has come. There we go, welcome dwarves, welcome. The Autumn Festival has begun. Oh, but damn it. That's not good. Alright, little Lionel here, who was getting chased around by that snatcher, was in the middle of having a strange mood. So when I turned on the burrow, it must have screwed them up. They want to complete their artifact, but since they're not allowed to be at their workshop anymore, they seem to have gone berserk. Oh, this is not going to improve the dwarves' moods at all. Boy, there's no clean way to deal with this, I don't think. Well, let's just follow the dwarven child for now and see what happens. Looks like they're trying to take apart this workshop. Ooh, and they sighted this other dwarf and are fighting them. The other dwarf is panicking and the child was just killed. Oh boy, yeah, that's not gonna be good. Right there. Oof, yeah, that's rough. Well, I know we're supposed to be on holiday, but maybe we could take care of this body real quick. Thank you. Well, I was really hoping we wouldn't have to take any visits to the tombs during a holiday, but here we are. This is going over great so far, isn't it? Everyone nice and relaxed? Ugh, miserable. Well, you know, considering the recent events, it looks like the dwarves are starting to pull themselves together a bit. You can see these guys down here doing a little bit of dancing. That was pretty neat. Kind of a dwarven line dance, I suppose. Alright, so maybe this is going over pretty well. I was sure to turn off the squads as well, so nobody should be doing any training, there's no work getting done whatsoever, and we're all just relaxing and trying to make the best out of the situation. You can see here I've got a couple of Kias in cages as well as a peregrine falcon, all animals that were caught up top in our cage traps on the wall. I thought that might be a nice addition. A little noisy perhaps, but it still might be interesting for the dwarves to see these creatures. Hopefully we can capture some more in the future. Get a real zoo started. That might be cool. Yeah, I'd say this is going over pretty well so far. If we have a look here, we can see that a bunch of the dwarves are currently socializing, which is not something you typically see, but I'm pretty sure it's something that's really good for them. It allows them to make friends and relationships with other dwarves that they normally wouldn't be able to, just because they don't spend a lot of time with each other, you know? And it looks like Rith, our former expedition leader, has gone berserk. I was not expecting that to happen so quickly. Well, this really stinks because now he's an adult dwarf with some combat training and he's currently equipped with a copper battle axe as well. This is gonna be ugly, I think. Well, let's see what happens. I am having all the dwarves attack this guy too. I don't want to, but he's not coming back from this and he has to be put down quickly. Autumn Festival! Woohoo! Let's see what happens. That was quick. Okay, so they just pounced on the guy and ripped him to shreds. Well, it's bound to happen, I suppose. Alright, well, having a look at the combat log here. First off, you will notice that it refers to Rith, our former expedition leader, as a rester, because originally I had given him no labors, and was intending to have him rest by himself. Just a heads up on that. Anyways, it looks like Rith hit one of our beekeepers in the stomach with the pommel of his axe, bruising their kidney, and then he took a whole bunch of big hits here, fell over, and he bit Cole Ukerkal's thumb, and ripped it into loose shreds. That's not good. Rith took a few more big hits, bit Cole once again in his leg, and then was eventually put down by the mechanic Id, Dagger Square, who stabbed Rith in the head with his steel spear. Jeez, man, that is brutal. Well, I have to imagine Id is in kind of a sour mood. It was his daughter, Lionel, who was killed earlier. Couldn't really blame the guy, I suppose. Yikes, what a damn mess. Someone want to take care of this body real quick? Please? Might be nice. Man, I'll tell ya, I'm not sure they can come back from this. That was kind of a whole bunch of crap loaded onto them in a very short amount of time. Okay, there we go. That's right, get him out of here. A damn shame. Poor Waxy up here. He's just in a depression now, sitting on this ledge. Ooh, that is rough. Starting to get real scared for this fortress. But I mean, I don't know, maybe it's for the best. I guess if we just kind of keep cycling through our stressed dwarves and replacing them with more hardy dwarves, new migrants, then eventually our population will be a bit more solid mentally. Maybe? That'll probably take a while. If it ever does happen, that is. Well, despite the death of a child, as well as our former expedition leader, in front of everybody during the autumn festival, it still kinda seems like the dwarves are in a pretty okay mood, all things considered. Which is kinda relaxing. I see dwarves singing, reading poetry, dancing a whole lot. So that's pretty neat. Socializing a bit, and it looks like Waxy even made it down with the other dwarves here. That's probably good for him to be with others at this point. That poor guy. Well, enjoy it while it lasts, dwarves, because in a couple of weeks we're back to work. And hard work, too, because we still really got to get this place in order. In fact, having a look at the calendar here, it is the 26th of Timber, late autumn, so we only have a couple days left, dwarves. And winter is upon us. And so let's get back to work, dwarves. Everyone out, let's get to it. There we go. We need ore smelted, we need corpses disposed of. Collect that honey. Get to it. Would somebody please clean up all this blood? My god, what a mess. Well, I'm gonna tell you what. It's currently winter in the year 278, and I'm gonna let a little bit of time go by. There are quite a few things that have to be done in the fortress, and I think we should just kind of focus on doing all those boring tasks for the time being. Seeing as how the goblins just tried to siege us, I guess if that's what you want to call it, I don't think they'll be coming back for a while, and so I think now might be the perfect time to kind of duck out and do some of this boring stuff. Although I will of course get back to you if anything interesting happens in the meantime. Okay? I will be right back. Hey, how's it going? We're back. Quick, right? Now, it's currently the 1st of Granite in the year 279. We basically just skipped over the winter. And a few things have happened here in the fortress. Nothing terribly thrilling. And we'll get to it all shortly. But there is something worrying that I want to address. Now, just moments ago, I was notified that a siltstone statue was toppled. And I'm fairly certain it was one of these two statues up by our entryway. Now that's particularly worrying because that means there was something there that we can't currently see that just toppled one of our statues. And there is a high possibility that it is a werebeast, which would be very bad news. And I made sure to pause the game right after I got that notification, and now I'm going to make a burrow just down in our meeting hall right here. And hopefully all the dwarves can get down here quickly. If it is a werebeast, that thing can move very fast, and it won't take long for it to get in. I'm also ordering this lever down here to be pulled, so hopefully we can get this bridge closed up as well, just as a bit of a heads up there. Alright, so now I'm unpausing the game. Let's see what, if anything, happens. Alright, all the dwarves are running to the meeting hall. Very good, very good. No problem so far. Nothing, I don't see a damn thing happening. Alright, well, there's nothing happening, it's all quiet. Just the hum of bees in the wind. The splashing of water from our mist generator. I do realize now that the burrow did not encompass the lever room, so that's why this bridge never closed. What a dumb person. Well, by now I do believe that werebeast, if that's what it was, has probably run off. I can't imagine what else it could have been. Dangerous, dangerous. You never know what's gonna pop up. Alright, let's get back to work, dwarves. That could have been a close one, but good reaction time. Oh, and you know what? Let's get these statues put back in place. That makes for a pretty good early warning system. Very handy. Oh, and here's something. An artifact. Udiel Gitkupbim, the Dwarven child, has created Ostagez, a carp bone scepter. She claims it as an heirloom in the name of the family ancestor, Ubble Glaze Orders. A carp bone scepter. I'm not sure I've ever seen an artifact made out of fish bones before. Very interesting. Let's have a look. Puzzlingly, the name translates to a fold hole. This is a carp bone scepter. All craftworkship is of the highest quality. This object menaces with spikes of black bear leather. On the item is an image of Kogan Earth Trusts, the dwarf, and dwarves in carp bone. Kogan is surrounded by the dwarves. The artwork relates to the ascension of the dwarf Kogan Earth Trusts to the position of Baron of the Scraped Chambers in 161. Also on the item is an image of a cushion-cut gem in jet. Well, it's an interesting one, I'll say that much. Mostly the fact that it's made out of carp bones, I suppose. Of course, black bear leather's pretty cool too. as well as the image of the historic Baron of the Scraped Chambers. I guess that's pretty cool too. Very good work, kid. That was little Udil here who made the artifact, daughter of Cole Ukerkal, our weaponsmith, the one who had his thumb bitten by our former expedition leader, just as a side note really. Now then, back to business. As I said, we basically skipped the winter, got some work done. I took the dwarves off training duty for now here in the barracks, just so we'd get a little bit extra done. Also, I did order some of the dwarves to change tasks and made a couple more miners, just so we can get this whole area here carved out, as well as our little carving chamber over here. It's now mined out as well and ready to go. Pretty exciting. Finally, right? Speaking of things finally getting done, our temples are all set as well. All 6 of them. The 3 over here, the one behind our library, and these 2 larger ones over here on the side. And actually, if we look up this way, we can see the staircase that leads down to our tomb. Well, down there I actually made a couple more temples to those 2 forgotten gods. Just for the heck of it, we don't want to leave them out. They should have some representation, right? We wouldn't want to anger them. That wouldn't be very smart. And so now that all the temples are completed, I figure we should go over the Dwarven gods, the ones that the Scraped Chambers worship. We'll probably get a better idea of who these dwarves are if we know who they worship. Okay. Now all these temples here are known as chapels, Rosat in the Dwarven tongue. And starting over on the right here, this temple is known as Rosat Dosom, the Chapel of Wisdom. And in there we worship Melbil, the Dwarven god of wisdom. He has 10 worshippers in the fortress currently. And also it should be noted that he is only one of 2 male Dwarven gods in our pantheon. All the rest of the pantheon is female. I thought that was pretty intriguing. Next up, right next to the Chapel of Wisdom, we have Rosat Geshud, the Chapel of Fortresses, where we worship Kathir Gravel Towers, the goddess of mountains, earth, and fortresses. A stout Dwarven deity who has 10 worshippers in our fortress. Next up we have Rosat Kadal, the Chapel of Gems, where we worship Onal, the Dwarven god of jewels, and the second of 2 male Dwarven deities. He has 13 worshippers in our fortress. Next up, over here behind our library, we have Rosat Il, the Chapel of Words, where we worship Koshath, the Scholar of Minds, the Dwarven goddess of writing. Now she only has 4 worshippers in our fortress, which is a darn shame, and kinda surprising because it always seems like our library is very full of dwarves reading books. You'd think they'd have more of an interest in her, but oh well. Now moving to the other side over here, we have Rosat Limar, the Chapel of Wealth, where we give praise to Nish Selfortunes the Trade of Walks, the goddess of wealth and trade. She has 9 worshippers in this fortress, and I believe she's blessed us greatly so far, because for being such a small fortress, I feel like we're doing pretty darn well for ourselves. And last but not least, over here on the far left, we see the temple known as Rosat Igam, the Chapel of Nature, home of the goddess Ifen, who is the goddess of courage, the rain, fertility, and plants, which I found very strange. Courage is a fairly typical Dwarven trait, but plants, the rain, fertility? That is a bit of a surprise, really. She does have 5 worshippers in our fortress, which is a respectable amount, and I suppose I might also explain why our dwarves want this open pit design here. Gives us a little exposure to Ifen's cleansing rains, I suppose. And I guess that'll about do it for all of the well-respected Dwarven gods. And now we could head up this way here, through our old temple, and down this dark stairway here, at the bottom of which we could see the last 2 temples. Down this way here we could see Rosat Nethgor, the Chapel of Lust, home of the goddess Tustum, goddess of generosity, sacrifice, lust, and depravity. No dwarves in the fortress worship Tustum, not a single one. And honestly, I think I could see why. Generosity and sacrifice are fine, absolutely. And there's nothing inherently wrong with lust either, it's just when we move towards depravity. She seems like a bit of a creepy goddess to me. Her home down here is well deserved. But a chapel whose home is even more well deserved down here is Rosat Astar, the Chapel of Burying, home of the Murk of Burying, the rotting goddess of suicide, murder, death, and the night. Again, no dwarves in the fortress worship this goddess. In fact, I would imagine she's almost universally reviled, although she is still acknowledged. Some say that in a time before time, she's the one who helped the demon leader of the goblins escape from the underworld. It is this goddess who released that foul creature, with the sole purpose of bringing more death to the world. Yes, her home is well deserved down here, and I'm hoping we never have a dwarf in the fortress who gives praise to this one. We'll acknowledge her, but nothing more. Alright, and I guess that'll about do it for our temples. It was pretty fun getting to know our gods a little bit better, and I'm glad we finally got this whole thing out of the way, really. Now then, it's really about time we came down here and started getting to work on this little engraving room. This is another thing I've been really meaning to do. You know as much. And so, let's get to it, because we have a lot of engraving to do. And now that we've got a few of the fortress essentials out of the way, I imagine this tower deal should go fairly quickly, both digging it downwards and engraving the walls. Although, I just realized something pretty dangerous about this construction right here. And that is right above this chamber here, there's the surface, which is covered with trees. And something important to note is that whenever a tree is cut down up on the surface, and there's open space beneath it, it will leave a hole in the ground. And you can see all these little single dots here. These are open spaces. If I move up a level, you can see them a bit easier. I chopped down all the trees in this area just now, so that we could start building a wall around where this tower is going to erupt from the ground. I wouldn't want anything sneaking into the fortress. But as of this very moment, this is pretty much an open gateway into the fortress. Very dangerous. Until we get these walls completed anyways. I do not like it. And while we're still on the subject of those dangerous tree holes, right above our temples here too, it's the surface, covered with trees. Now I'm going to be very careful with cutting down trees in this area, but I think eventually I'd like to cover up those temples with some siltstone blocks, and maybe raise them up out of the ground too. That might be cool, but we'll see what happens. It's more likely that we'll just end up building separate, larger temples in a more interesting fashion, That could be better. Oh, hold up, just pause the game here. I'm not too sure what just happened. Oh, it looks like Kivish, one of our mechanics, is throwing a tantrum. And on top of that, they assaulted Atir, our expedition leader. Come on, that's not good. Well, luckily it doesn't look like it was that bad of an attack. They punched Atir a couple times and tore the muscle in her right elbow, which I imagine hurt pretty bad. Looks like Atir just worked her way into our hospital, and that mechanic is right next to him right now. I'm not too sure what they're doing. They're not fighting or anything. A little apologetic, perhaps? I'd like to think so. It looks like they cooled off a bit. Yeah, this Kivish here has been a hothead lately, ever since the Autumn Festival pretty much. This dwarf was in a good mood beforehand, but I'm thinking maybe those recent deaths turned them around. Guess I couldn't blame them. Not something I like to see, but I'm actually pretty hopeful that we could deal with it, because actually if we look over here we could see Beans, who is still in a foul mood, but it has improved quite a bit since the Autumn Festival. We could see now that over the long term, he's been under a great deal of stress, which is actually an improvement. So I don't know, maybe it worked for some dwarves. Admittedly, it was kind of not the best festival around, but perhaps this year's festival will go over a little bit better. We're gonna have to make damn sure that's the case, cause that was an ugly one. I don't know. It's just good to see a dwarf's mood finally improve. We must be doing something right? I just wish all dwarves could eventually turn around. It's just a shame that some dwarves get so stressed out so easy. Kivish here is actually approaching his breaking point, and I don't know why he went downhill so fast. Just gonna have to keep an eye on him, I guess. But for now we can spend some time in our prison, although I'm sure that's not gonna improve his mood very much. Back down here in our engraving area, which we should really come up with a name for, shouldn't we? We'll think about it some other time. Anyways, the dwarves are busy at work engraving the walls, and I figured this level here will be reserved for images of the Keeper of Bees. And so we can see engraved here a bunch of events that have happened to the Keeper of Bees since the founding of the fortress. We have images of Rith leading the dwarves here, images of the founding of our military, and all of our squad leaders. There's an image of Waxy making a masterful wax craft, all positive images, sure, but there are a few others, such as one of Rith weeping after he was removed from the position of expedition leader, and even another of Atir becoming the new expedition leader. Yep, they all have to do with the dwarves living in the fortress. And now that this level's done, we can start working downwards. And upwards too even, where you can see we've been making some great progress. The first level of wall is all ready to go, and even above that we're well underway with the second level as well. I don't know how tall this thing will end up being, but we're gonna let it go for a bit. It can't be some dinky thing, it has to be seen. It should end up being taller than the trees anyways, a nice respectable height. Oh, and you know what? I just realized it's the 25th of Galena, 279, late summer. So you know what that means. The Autumn Festival. It's coming right up. Totally caught me off guard. And perhaps it'd be a good time to reflect on this past year as well, now that things are starting to settle down a little bit. Oh, yep, there we are. First of limestone. Okay, dwarves, let's all stop our work because the time has come to reap this year's blessings. There we are. Come on in, dwarves. There's plenty of food and drinks to go around. Let's just enjoy ourselves, okay? It's a stressful world. There's no need to work all year round. This'll be good for us. Let us sing, dance, recite poetry, and just be thankful to the gods and to Kruggsmash. Sure, the scraped chambers might be going through some hard times, but I'm sure that before long, everything will turn around for us. We have to believe as much anyways. Well, actually, it looks like the dwarves are here to do some trading. I suppose some trading wouldn't hurt our relaxation time. It'll be quick, 2 shakes even. But I'm curious where the outpost liaison is. Oh, of course, out in a tree. Makes perfect sense. Just, checking the place out, I guess. Well, maybe we should send somebody out to escort them to the fortress. Just for safety's sake. And there we are. Very good. Just this way, Ilral. Oh, okay, well, I guess they just ran off. A little ashamed, perhaps. That's what we'll go with. Well, anyways, I suppose we could do some trading now. We won't need a liaison for that. So weird. But we don't have to focus too much on the trading, really. It's just more tedious stuff. Now's the time for relaxing. And of course, reflecting on this past year as well. And a heck of a year it was, too. We had that minor scare with the siltstone statue right at the beginning. That thankfully turned out to be nothing. We have old Beans here turning around. Starting to see that perhaps things aren't as bad as you thought around here. I knew you would. There's a dwarf. Oh my. Alright. Well, looks like Kivish just killed a wood burner. Okay. Of course, right during the autumn festival, a dwarf gets killed right in the middle of our meeting hall. I'll tell you what, Kivish. You're out of here. That's it. You're gonna be our first exiled dwarf. And just because I'm often asked how I do this, you hit V, go over the dwarf in question, then hit P, and then you hit E to send them away. And I gotta say, buddy, I do not care where you go. Just get the hell out of Kruggsmash. It's a shame to have to throw out a dwarf like this, but they did just kill another dwarf. Ugh. This is gonna be the start of a new trend, I think. Oh, and that rat bastard took one of our mugs, too. Damn thief. Well, we're gonna have to be sure to not let them back in. Now there's blood all over the damn place. Do you think we could get that cleaned up, dwarves? Yeah, look at that. Winter is upon us. Once more. Alright, well, get back to work, I suppose. You poor haggard dwarves. We're clearly trying our best here, but maybe we're just not being hard enough on some of these dwarves. Maybe after a certain point they really just can't come back and we have to throw them out of the fortress. That's not really something I want to do, but of course we don't want our citizens getting killed either. That's gonna make everything much worse. But maybe it's for the best if they take a little break from our fortress here and spend some time in one of the surrounding hillocks. That would be preferable to them going insane or injuring another dwarf. Speaking of which, we do have a copper statue over here of our former expedition leader, Rith. It shows him surrounded by dwarves, which of course relates to him leading us here to Kruggsmash. Yeah, the less good dwarves we could lose here, the better. For everyone. I think we're gonna have to start throwing out the more haggard dwarves. We don't really have any options, but really at this particular moment, the only real haggard dwarf in the fortress is Waxy. Kivish was the only other real angry dwarf in the fortress, but I haven't yet seen Waxy do anything bad. He's just kind of terribly depressed. I don't know. Well, on the subject of exiling dwarves to a hillocks nearby, it should be noted too that during this past year, several more hillocks have popped up nearby. All over here to the west, on the other side of the plains of Shaming, we have Blood Mirrored, Tempted Handle, Girder Sprayed, Dent Chamber, and Fainted Gravel, all with populations of about 50 dwarves, and they're all also economically linked to us, which is truly puzzling. It's strange that this many dwarven hillocks would pop up in such short of a time, but I'm thinking it must have something to do with the fall of the dwarven capital, Standard Worlds. I imagine there were quite a few refugees that had to flee from the place, and these settlements here are probably founded by those dwarves. That has to be what happened. Well, it's good, I suppose, to know that there's civilization out there for our exiles to flee to. Better than nothing. Alright, well I guess we're getting down there, huh? We should probably start wrapping things up. Quite an episode. A little depressing, really. But we've finally come to the realization that some dwarves are just beyond help. And it's probably better just to throw those dwarves out before they cause any real trouble. And so that's what we're going to be doing from now on. It's the best course. We've also at this point had 2 autumn festivals, which really didn't go over so well, and I'm thinking that the dwarves at this point are starting to think that the autumn festival is just cursed. Who's gonna die next year, they must be whispering to each other. I wouldn't blame them, I guess. Oh no. Now before I say anything, I just want it to be known that I do not add cliffhangers into the game unless they just happen to pop up at the right time. And it really seems like Dwarf Fortress knows the perfect time to do it. Yeah, this is gonna be a cliffhanger, I'll tell you that goddamn much. Anyways, the werehorse Delair Izegmorol has come. A large horse twisted into humanoid form. It is crazed for blood and flesh. Its eyes glow violet, and its charcoal hair is long and wavy. Now you will know why you fear the night. This is really bad, everyone. Because let me tell you, the creature is right up here at the northern side of the map, almost directly in front of the fortress entrance. And if we look right down here, there are a pair of dwarves. Kivish the brewer, the only one in the fortress, and Ubbel, a carpenter, wife of Kol Ukerkal, and mother of Unib, that little dwarf girl who made the carp bone scepter earlier. I'm afraid that neither of them stand much of a chance, really. But it's looking like we're gonna have to wait till next episode to see for sure. Sorry about that. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this episode, and I certainly hope you'll join me next time here in Kruggsmash, Honeystoker. And until then, you bearded bastards,